Speaking truth, seeking heart, reaching knowledge, leaking seeds, sowing harvest, reaping man of meager means. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram beef.
Peace, 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 peace. Light,
Peace, everybody.
illumination. Peace, peace, peace.
Peace,
Islam
peace.
tribe. Peace, Sheikh.
Peace.
Hey, somebody said Kawhi. Kaiwala said they appreciate us what we doing, man. What you doing? Kaiwala, peace. Yeah, I heard myself echoing a lot, but peace and love to you. Peace and love to you, Kaiwala. Peace and love, Nobles. Peace, Empress. Peace, Dantes. Peace, Malik. Peace, Lamarck. Peace, Moso. Peace, Brian. Peace, Alonzo. Peace, everybody.
Peace and love.
Peace, peace.
Peace, y'all parents. Peace, my parents. All that. But as Dante said, man, once we know who we are in the building, should be number uno. But it's the things that be going around, man, that I always like to, clear up for brothers don't get things misconstrued. He said you the producer, and you would love to include an excerpt from teaching on a track. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you can. All my information is there. But, a lot of us that are passionate over, religion or this and that and the other, but sometimes not as passionate in other studies of like brotherhood and history and things like that. We give certain crafts to different nationalities. And so yesterday it was just, brought up to me after I got off. I got a couple emails from a couple older brothers. That's Prince Hall Masons, and some of them know that, well, not them, some of them, both of the older gentlemen know about the science because they were talking about the temple. That's ML King, that used to be there back in the day, which is still there, but it's not operating as it used to. But the whole conversation, y'all, was about the Kemetic origins of Freemasonry. The Kemetic origins of Freemasonry. We heard of Hermetic, but then we started to agree, and I always say anybody, and I love all my people because I got people in Greek fraternities, that's Qs and all that, that's, that I say okay people, but then again, history and revealing things and not revealing things is a whole different story, But the root of Kemet, or so-called Egypt, is overwhelming. When we talk about the allegory. Yeah, somebody said something?
Should I get us going with the Moorish American prayer?
Oh, we didn't? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Yes, you should have been stopped me.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure we get it in. Islam, I know we about to get it in. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, Ju Ali, Shalom Aleichem, Yashaya. Peace, 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 peace.
Yeah, we definitely overstepped ourselves. But as we be watching things, man, yeah, as we be watching things, man, and I always tell people be careful of what you watch, because you don't want your brain to get too wired on, just on things that doesn't make no sense, that separate. So if you just have the little time to look at the overwhelming things. So when people be asking me about signs and symbols, because I say, well, hey, today is a good day to break a little bit of this down then. I said, why not? I said, why not? Is it going to go with everything? So these are things that people should know before we look outside of ourselves. But a lot of this stuff from Freemasonry is borrowed. It's allegorical myth and ideology and metaphors from more than ancient societies that were advanced in philosophical mysteries. It's a lot of writers, y'all. Like, I don't know if y'all ever heard of, no disrespect when I say it in this not in this context, European lower level Freemasons, you know, like Manly P. Hall. You know, everybody think the secret teachings of all ages is heavy, but it's not. It can be dissected. And I'm giving you little nuggets.
Wow.
It all began in Kush, Abyssinia, or Ethiopia. And so,
Islam Sheikh,
yes.
I had a question. So because I know, I have always, no one's told me this directly, but in all the conversations that I've heard, Manually P. Hall ever reference, I think it's fair to say that there was an understanding that he was a higher level initiate, Freemason that was sharing, information at a lower level. So to hear that he may not have actually been, I know for me and maybe others, that was that's something to know, something to learn today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And it's no disrespect to no one when you see the levels, like when a person say, well, 32, and I say, well, yeah, that's fine. But going to other levels of wisdom, understanding, the higher and the lower, it's just a few more degrees. It's just a few more degrees of understanding, and it's no disrespect to no one. That's the understanding, the level of peace. That's the understanding that when you say it's nothing outside of yourself, from a clear understanding, And so, just like you said, Noble Lamarck, even when Manly P, and I'm glad you said that, when they talk about these things, and when you look at the writings and when you look what they're saying, I don't think a lot, if we're reading that, all I tell brothers and sisters is look at the geographical landmass, what they're speaking of. Look at the area. It show what Europe, no disrespect. So the whole thing is to build up. The whole thing is to build up someone, to build up about the young kids, about the history of the Nile River that flows from the south to north. All these specific things to change the mental to get to the clear understanding of these signs and symbols of the primordial man. It's works that's been done. Drzelia Houston, it's a book. I'm quoting things. Man, we can gather and compile a whole bunch. Wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient Kushite empire to the Kushite race belong to the oldest and purest Arabian blood. And so when we start asking these things and speaking of these things, we start putting it into a geographical area. Not disrespecting or telling no one, but you can clearly see where the symbology come from. You'll start seeing clearly when we talk about books like Atlantis of the Latter Days. And if a person take it in the wrong manifestation when I say just a lower level of wisdom, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I mean it in a lower level way when I say it's just base. So if my vernacular or you think my candor is disrespectful, forgive me. But I'm saying it in a way where it's just a base level of understanding. That's all. That's all.
Hey, Islam Sheikh, I appreciate you clarifying that, because I think for the average person, I don't think when people explain or try to explain what they based off their understanding, they treat anybody who's associated with Masonry of Freemasonry as being at the proverbial same level.
Yeah. And Malik, I mean Lamar, excuse me. I think a lot of times TV has messed a lot of things up, because everybody say, well, this is doing that and that is doing this. And I say, well, if that is doing this and this is doing that, well, you have to put a face to it. Why? Because I hope you don't want nobody else to go in that quicksand. If we saying it in that context, if we're going to illuminate things, because I promise you, the things we do is no secret. I always talk about sacredness. Even the so-called, man, it's no disrespect. Even the European Shriners, the Albion Shrine, whatever you want to call them, with all due respect, but the other man Shriners, they call their organization the ancient Arabic order, Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. And I show y'all documents older than that, who are the ancient order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. And the writer and the person with that science, with that lower level science, wonder why they alluded to the Masonic house as ancient Arabic order. Perhaps they were subtly bearing witness to the teachings of someone that wrote about these certain things. I'm telling you, Drusilla Houston and other people. I don't want to have to say it. You can put a name to it. You can put a name to it. It's all type of things that can be looked at. When I talk about brothers and sisters, I had to make this clear to some of my brothers that try to subjugate the teachings and not spread it. Because I say, if this stuff is good, tell the truth. I mean, it's so many books. The Arab by Bertrand Thomas. It talks about who the ancient Arab is. It talks about these signs and symbols. It talks about the ancient Kemetic art and artifacts that's associated with the shrine. It talks about it. The misnomer Black Arabia and the African origin of this type of Islam. And I'm not talking about the type that we think that people is given to us right now, today, right? That's all I'm saying. I'm showing people that a lot of this stuff is replicas of the Kemetic stuff. A lot of it, the Ankh, the Sphinx, were symbols of life, strength, regeneration. And they have their way into the Masonic world, in a worldview, and that's been lifted by certain people. I'm telling you, it's produced of what accepted in the so-called esoteric, the Gnostic, and the occult paradigms and paradigms. And so that's what I'll be talking about when people be saying, oh, Gematria and Sephiroths and all these different type of writings and Grimm and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, we can decipher anything, having a clear understanding of some things, right? I'm telling y'all, man, most of the brothers and sisters that's promulgate something, I promise you, y'all, are part of a Masonic order. I'm telling you. Anybody research Stolen Legacy, by George, who stole the legacy by? George G.M. James, if I'm not mistaken. I think we shouldn't be afraid to talk about these things. I mean, I'm watching brothers come together on a certain type of understanding. I'm talking about all this stuff, all this sign, all this Masonic symbolism, all this lost symbolism, all this stuff, man, it can be found in a certain area, family. All this symbology can be found in our teachings. It's certain knowledge to transfer these knowledges to our generations. I'm telling you. This type of knowledge, I tell everyone, I say, man, I hope we don't let social media get us afraid of brothers that can build and use these tools to what? To build. This is the science in anything that you can get. I mean, we can sit down and talk forever. We can talk about all the astrological signs, how in the biblical text, in the Quran, and make it all universal. It's all here. This is the type of brotherhood that the text talk about. The secretness of how mysticism shaped the nation. I'm telling y'all, man, it's there. Man, it's there, y'all. It's there. He said, please read Watch Your Trip, The Supernatural by Roger Money, Friday online. What did he say? I feel like I don't like that. I don't either. Peace, Khary. Peace and love. But that's all I'm saying, man. Somebody hit me up last night when I was talking about Fahrenheit 451, and a brother, he was like, "Bro, man, you was not lying." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "What? Everything." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He was like, "People really don't see." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "About how a lot of things are going to be obsolete. A lot of things are going to be obsolete." So when I talk about, when I talk about certain things, when people be like Masonry and brotherhood, I hope people be listening when I say we only get the bad part of certain things, and we get that little bit through in our face. But then the real brotherhood that should be talked about, that's what we about. You know, I don't think we share it enough, because the type of brotherhood and a type of understanding that we should have should be something that how can I say? It should be something that be spread.
Wow.
Like it's needed. So when people say religion, I know so many brothers that different religion. I don't know so many different people in Flint since I've been here on different levels, you know, just doing basic things. And when it comes to their brotherhood, you know, the children are reading books. Now, some don't even know what a book is. Well, and that's what somebody said, the children are reading books, you know, and I always have a comeback when they say the children are reading books. I say, do we have access to children? If we have access to children, then the first thing we got to do is say, well, children might not be reading books, but the children I have access to are actually doing these things. You know, so I understand what people be saying, and I really do. But at the same time, brother, I think what was that, brother Khary, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah, brother Khary Wallace. Peace and love to you.
He said children aren't reading books.
No, they're not, and I understand that. But
why not? The parents,
you know. Oh, you a female. Oh, you a female. I'm sorry, Empress. My fault, Empress. But I agree with you on that level. But then again, it's still gonna boil back on the adult. Everything boiled back on us. Everything boiled back on the attention span what we had. I can just remember back when we was young, and I think we grew up okay. We wasn't the best, but we did have some type of order. We did go to some certain. I don't know all of us, but I'm sure a lot of us have been to certain places of organization, of religion, maybe not. But I think a lot of us in your younger years, you know, I think we've seen some things. I think you went to some events at some churches maybe, and it was and you had an okay time, you know, XYZ. So I'm always talking about certain things. And then again, brothers and sisters, I talk about if people never been, and that's again when you talk about, and I'm agreeing to you, a sister, about kids not reading. You said the schools are not pushing them to read physical books, and a lot of the parents, unfortunately, are not teaching them to do so. Watch this. I agree, but here's the kicker. See, That's why I like how, here's the kicker right here. It still goes back to the brothers and sisters, like to what do we have time? Because if we have access to the kids, it's just like when I talk about rite of passage. It's just like when any other kids, when they going through their so-called Jewish school and this, and that, and the other. It's the same way. It's the same way. The same way I'm talking about this brotherhood. It's the same way you had junior this. In other masonry, in the other man masonry, they bring the kids up in a certain type of fashion. So I'm bringing this all the way back to where I'm talking about prevention. What? How? This type of community involvement. So when we say we're not reading, the institutions is there, but they're not open. You know what the institutions are? What Noble Bay said, absolutely. You know what the institutions are, y'all? The churches. They open right now. Soon after church, they close. Soon after church, they close. They might be open selling some spaghetti dinners. Well, but real talk, Dantes, they close. So I like the concept of things as well. Don't get me wrong. I love the concept of, like when we say church per se. I love the concept of us coming together per se. But then in the meantime, in the between time, what's going on in those institutions? And once again, if the brothers ain't, if the kids ain't reading and we ain't connecting to them, I think that's a reflection on us. You know, then I got to see how many kids we have connected to. How many kids in this community do we have access to where we can have a hold to? I think those things need to be talked about as well, because I believe teaching should come from the home, and the home should be an extension to the community, and the community should be an extension from the how can I say, the spiritual guidance from the community, especially if it's a, you know, how can I say it? A community with a lot of kids that may not have, you know, X, Y, and Z. What Brother Bay said. Yep, absolutely, Brother Bay. Absolutely. There's no disrespect. So when people say these things, I ask people right here, Brother Dantes and family, and the rest of y'all on social media, have y'all ever heard of Kwanzaa Kunjufu? When I talk about conspiracy to destroy misnomer BLACK boys and girls, Dantes, when you interviewed me, I was referencing a lot of that wisdom. I was referencing a lot of that when we were talking about education and certain things, and, you know, brotherhood, and how it's important for that, the imminent notification of the first.
And the prison to school pipe, or school to prison pipeline. Such.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you, whoever that is, but I get you. But those are things that I'll be talking about, because the infrastructure is there, you know. And when we look back, someone was asking me about the Panther movement and how certain individual groups had lunch programs and X, Y, and Z. And then you look at things now, and, you know, individuals say they're in a better place, or they may have more freedoms and this and that and the other, which, hey, you know, it is what it is. But far as, you know, when people say on the level of togetherness, on that movement to establish some things with a group of people, and it's easier now because you have, you know, this type of social media, you know, you would think, you know what I mean? And so every time people ask me, I say about movements and about doing certain things like this, it has digressed, you know, but it can progress, you know? And so that's the beauty of what we're talking about right here. That's the beauty of sharing a brotherhood. That's the beauty of talking about these things and bringing different brothers together, because, you know, like I said, it's a shift getting ready to happen, you know, and everybody be talking about the Aquarian ages and, you know, disrespecting signs that come from themselves. And now it's been proven, you know, that all we have to do is just reach back and look, you know, and see all this stuff what our scholars and even other scholars were saying, but not saying it in the way where you can just see it, but in the way you have to have some clear understanding and break it down with certain tools, right? I'm telling you, man. And so that's all when I'm telling people when they get afraid of certain signs and symbols like Kemetic science, or which they like to connotate it as masonry. And that is one path. It is one path. When it's taught right, it is one path. Why? Because it's dealing with some science. It's dealing with some manufacturers. It's dealing with some things that come from something. So when you have an eye, when you have tools, you can deal with the duality. You can be able to break the wisdom down. And it's no disrespect to no one. It's no trying to, we showing someone up. Wisdom can't show no one up. Wisdom just is what it is, you know? And it's one path, which is the design to point to a universal truth. The compass is a mathematical tool that guides and gives direction. Humanity has lost its way and is in dire need of a moral compass. You know, I'm just breaking it down in this context. The traveling man, the Kemetic man, the man that travels freely. The context, Freemason per se, cannot, go too far without his or her valuable tools. The tools was designed to move us from the northeast corner, which was a temporary place of darkness per se. We're using this as an analogy or a metaphor, a place symbolizing physical and spiritual death, to the east, where the warmth and the enlightenment originates, symbolic of knowledge and truth. And the physical sun rises in the east, and the worshipful, they say master per se, but we're breaking it down as a metaphor. Knowledge and intellect should energize the lodge. I hope you know what the lodge is. Just as the sun puts the earth in motion, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I promise y'all this ain't hard. Watch when we come together. And when people say, "What you mean come together?" I said it in the right way. We almost there. Watch when we come together. What Dante, what you talking about, what we're talking about it's a mathematical equation. It just go together. I'm telling you, man, it just go together. It just go together. Man, listen. If once we start, man, I got some things to show y'all, man, how like we have land, like, and right now we know individuals and we know how certain ways to have things grow in the right time, understanding the movement of the moon and the sun, you know, the greatest star in the universe. When we talk about the earth rotation, how it works in conjunction with the universal laws. And so when you study these things, you can give these principles. You understand there's no divinity outside of these principles. What? Cause and effect. We know these things. So when people be talking about science and stuff, I'll be like, I don't know what science you talk about. This the science that we're right here, because we way past the base science. You can learn how to align your five senses with the natural order of things, and your third eye become activated. How? This is order. It aligns with that. Once everyone aligns, this is what happens. When people be like, well, do you have this ability, or do that individual have that ability? We all have that ability. It's just, it lie dormant inside of us. You know, this what I'm saying. I promise y'all, this type of science, what I'm talking about, we'd be afraid of it, and we lost our ability to master our environment. When I talk about our environment, I'm talking about exactly what Dante is talking about. Not just ourselves, but our environment as well. I always tell people, think of the psychosis as this, right here, we get into a situation or we get a little bit of nickels and we say, man, we moving out the community, right? So we move out the community and really, how can I say, get in more debt? How? Because we try to get big houses and this, and that, and the other. But actually, nothing is owned in the community. And when you start looking in the community, when you start looking your community up, especially the city of Flint, Dantes, you see it's all native land. And you start really, really seeing what's going on. And you really start seeing, be like, wait a minute. You start seeing signs and symbols. You be like, well, wait a minute. You'll be like, well, wait a minute, Loud. Like, who adopted these symbology? You will see native people with the same symbology I have on, made. And this is what I'm talking about, like things where, when I talk about homeschool, when I talk about these things, when people say science and us as Moors should be frowned upon, and I say, no, it's not. You think people just got wisdom and just came from it and magically poof? And science didn't come from a thought? I mean, brotherhood, I tell everyone, I said, brotherhood, sisterhood is going to solve it. Why? Because we can clear it up and show that it's all the Osiris mysteries. No matter what level a person come from, and we have to go there and be honest with it. How? We have to break it down and show that if we go with it, it'll be the Osiris mysteries, So that's, yeah. So what you say? Peace, liberty. So that's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm here for us and brothers to talk about when they say, well, it's this, it's that, and the other, and conversation we have to be on a argument over man-made religion, which I'm not going to have. I say, well, if we definitely operate on the brotherhood, well, we can just say the majority of this is the Osiris mysteries, and it come from these teachings, peace and love, and it's no disrespect. And we have to see these things. We have to look at all these things. Like when they talk about the all-seeing eye, El Haru, what is that symbology? What is that meaning? Because it's showing something, No disrespect. It's just like it's just like when I talk about, when I say Miserat in the biblical scriptures, and people be like, what you mean when they say you shouldn't talk about the what's above? And I say, well, research what Maserat is in the biblical scriptures, and then start getting the idea of certain things, like these tools supposed to be used at home. They're supposed to be used for your young people, a person who is able to read. Remember, I told y'all, just like Malcolm said, the importance of read. I was just talking about it the other day. And just like Frederick Douglass was talking about the importance of reading. And then just like Fahrenheit 451, how they were talking about book burning. And then people not even getting the idea of what may have been before, or what may have been written, to give you confirmation, or just to get you on the path of wisdom, but not even having an opportunity to see the good of things and why people take good and make it for bad and only throw the bad, because I'm explaining it to you. I'm explaining to you just like this. You can't be afraid of nothing that clearly represents yourself. All the signs and symbols, like when we talk about hearing, seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting. But then the first three senses that are essential to the so-called craft of masonry, of hearing, seeing, and feeling, typifies your ability to recognize another so-called mason in darkness, as well as in light. There's no disrespect. These physical tools give us ability to properly identify one, giving the signs, the tokens, and the words. But do you know where the signs and the tokens and the words originate from? All the signs and symbols? Do you? You know? Yeah, physical books are a commodity. Absolutely they are. Absolutely they are. I call them NFTs. With all due respect, that's why I mean, I'm a collector of books. I've been collecting books for a long time. You know, how libraries, I converted books to ebooks. I did a whole lecture at the university showing how certain institutions, you know, spent millions converting books to ebooks. But it is what it is, you know. But it's so much, family, of order and craft that really need to be looked at so we can move forward. Because I didn't believe it when I saw the brothers on the corner in the city of Flint when I came home, which I'm home, you know, the brother that be on the corner, you know, in the purple. You know, it blew my mind, you know. You know, blew my mind. You know, blew my mind. Blew my mind. But hey, that's what I tell y'all, family. It is what it is. But once again, I see where brothers and sisters, where we limited at. You know, I see where doubt come from and fear. You know, I see it. You know, I see where a lot of brothers think something's gonna come save us. I see that as well. And I do see what's going on with how can I say, you know, just it's a lot going on with feelings and with even with the science and with agreeing to disagreeing and how people, you know, have a lack of respect for each other. And so I think all that stems from a lack of brotherhood. And that's what I wanted to just share with brothers today. But the craft is not nothing scary when I talk about this type of science, you know. The craft is nothing scary when you understand the science. And all you have to do is sit and talk to some brothers, you know. All you have to do and sit, because I always tell people, if something is secret and it's good, or it's something sacred and it's good, because something secret shouldn't be something sacred, or something good for people shouldn't be a secret. You know, it shouldn't be. It definitely should be a secret. So that's what I wanted to illuminate today. But brothers and sisters, we here. We're gonna have another. I think in January we probably have a meet and greet in Puerto Rico. But I really want brothers to reach out. You know, and we can talk about a lot of subjects. I think we can do some good. I think it's enough people, and we have enough influence with each other, and even we can learn, because it's opportunity, man, and the world is for sale. But with this brotherhood and this science, man, I think we should always ask questions of what's going on. I think we should greet each other with love, and that's just the first step. But do anybody got any questions? Because if not, man, we're gonna get out of here, man. I just wanted to bring a little wisdom to y'all today. It was good to hear my nobles, Dantes. Good to hear your voice. You know, as we continue, and I continue to encourage all y'all on here too, man. You know, like everybody in their community, in their neighborhood, as you see things, bring things to the cipher so we can talk about these things, so we can look at these things. And then if we really need to discuss some things, we'll just have to do it privately on Zoom, you know, to where it ain't, you know, live and broadcast. But if we, like I'm telling y'all, we can really do some things. We can really do some things. And like my noble Malik has some amazing ideas. My noble Dantes has some amazing ideas. Like we already doing some things, you know, with the grace of the Creator, of the grace of Allah, whatever you want to call it. But we already doing some things. You know, we got our hands on some land. And I just know what we can do together under certain auspices, you know, and under certain understandings as a body. You know, as a body, I know what we can do, and it can be amazing. Because y'all heard what my noble Dantes was talking about in his community, and then you already know what I'm talking about in my community.
Islam.
Peace, Mo. You already know what I'm talking about in my community, and it's probably like that in a lot of other people's community. And
Islam is definitely like that in St. Louis, and I know any area that has a land bank, any area where the city has some type of agency, you know, where they buy all of the old property in the area, and then, you know, any area really, because urban areas, the city areas, some of the counties in the greater St. Louis area are also doing land banks now. These are just old properties, 10, 15, maybe 20 plus years old. You know, and in St. Louis, what they're doing in a lot of communities, they probably still doing the same thing in Flint, is you might have certain real estate developers, they got partnerships with the city. They've done things in the past, you know, they buy a lot of the land bank properties. There's still tons out there, but you might notice if you check your land banks where certain areas, if you go in these communities that are land bank owned properties, they might have certain real estate developers buying and holding. So that's a telltale sign that something's going on. If a real estate company if you go in your areas, and we can all do this, if we go in our areas and you just start noticing these things where you might see the same real estate developer sign on this land bank house or this land bank house, and they buying and holding. They buying and holding for how long? Years, right? And for years, because things, you know, every city has a master plan, city plans for what they want to do with their cities. So what she is just saying is, yeah, let's check out the land banks in our area, and let's be obviously under a certain organizational status, you know, a certain status, and we buying these properties on these land bank lists just like the developers are. They buying and holding them. We can do the same thing. Or we could just obviously stamp and approve it right now with gardens and anything that we want to do on the land, you know. But yeah, it's definitely like that in St. Louis and any area that has land banks. It's like that. So that the opportunity is there for us to take that land back as long.
And Dantes, everybody be talking about things on an individual level. When I hear people, they be like, oh, they had problem with this and that and the other. And I say, well, we always talk about variables and why things may happen and how can I say, sometimes make sure they don't happen and be looked at in a whole different light. So when you're doing things at the organ, when they look you up and they say, who's buying these things, when they look it up and they say, this is this type of entity, this is this group of people that's doing these things, we're not just buying it for our portfolio per se. Like a lot of what we're doing is going to be used for a certain type of income, you know, for a certain type of living, contingent on X, Y, and Z. You see what I'm saying? It's so much like in my city, it's like whole streets for sale, Dantes. Like when I tell you, when you like, what you mean, Sheikh? When I say whole side streets where you can literally put modular homes on one side, the other side you can have a business street with food trucks or whatever, and own the whole street. Hell.
And it's just like you mentioned, if you pay attention to certain areas in the cities, you know, there's no schools. 10 years ago, there were probably 20, 30 more schools in the area you grew up in. Now, you're in your 30s and 40s, they all gone but one, maybe. So with that being said, that's how you push, right? You push people out of certain areas because there's no schools. But then you might have to bus a child to the county school programs, you know, because there ain't no schools in the area no more. Maybe a few. There's some high schools here and there, all the elementary schools gone. There ain't no more middle schools. They don't even exist in certain cities no more.
Yeah.
Middle schools, I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then the houses end up on these land banks. There's no schools in the area. So we get in and we try to we can get work, we can get that land, is what you're saying, Sheikh, and we can do things. We can try to redevelop our communities back under our religious entity and have our religious communities. Yeah, we can lift our communities back up.
Yeah, it's not hard. I'm telling you, it's not hard. It's for sale. But yeah, man, we ain't gonna hold everybody time up. But we always talk about these things because this is what we'd be about as well, and other things, and having these conversations and showing people what we can do as a group. And even though we have Sunday school, but this was important, because it was just on my heart. I'm like, listen, this science, it shouldn't be nothing to be frowned upon. And once we understand these tools, now we use them on the next level. What? Let ownership. I'll be hearing everybody talk about these groups and these own land and they got gardens I ain't never seen. And I ain't saying what no one have. Everybody always tell me what they had land and they get fruit from here. I ain't got no fruit from no group or no brothers or no Muslim brothers from no area. No disrespect. I seen people at the farmers market. I've seen that. And then what really blew my mind, I saw at some of the people at the farmers market, a lot of them, I thought that they grew it, they was buying it from the store.
Islam.
So
like you said, a whole block. You have certain lists like in Flint and in St. Louis where it's whole blocks on there. And you can do whole, like you said, you could do one side, there's no houses. You can tear the houses down once you get the houses. Yeah. And you can do whole credits on one whole side of the block. Every plot of land you could turn into a whole garden. Yeah. Where you run those things and taking those things to things like your farmers markets and things. Yeah.
Because you want to tear all them old raggedy houses down. You got to tear all that down. You tear all that down, man, you can actually, it's cheaper to put your own structure. And when a person be like, damn, well, my own structure can come and just on the bed, when you put the cement base, boom. I'm talking about community, religious community. But we got to get out of here, man, because I gotta roll out of here, man. But man, I definitely want to have this conversation again with Nobles. Thank everyone on TikTok that'll be here, everyone on YouTube that's rocking with us. But we definitely want to have these conversations and see y'all soon, man. And it's all about building with me. It can be done. Even people, as we close, even women and brothers, because I know a lot of people that know real estate. I was telling a brother like this, I say it like this. One of my friends, and this is another thing as we close, what Dantes was saying. One of my friends, their parents passed on, peace be among his parents, and their house is for sale in the neighborhood. If the house, they want like $100,000 for it, well, about close to 100. But the house where it's at, it's no schools. It's across the street from an elementary school that's been closed down for years. In the neighborhood around the corner from where I grew up at, off of DuPont Street. And so it's nothing around it. But downtown, they building up Kettering area. But if you take that house, Noble Dantes, and take it somewhere else, it'll be worth a grip, right? It'll be worth a grip. So so as we were talking about it, we were like, yes, X, Y, and Z. So we were talking, and I was talking about certain trusts and certain entities buying things. Like, say, if you got let's do it like this, your spiritual or your religious entity or your fraternal order, and y'all taxes in for the federal government, and y'all want to buy that per se, just say, listen to the science, what I'm saying, as a frat house, right? And y'all organization is taxes in for the federal government, so it's a tax shelter per se, just like the church is. So though y'all brothers can put money together and have that in a certain trust to make sure everything is fair with who going in and how you go out of it, if that ever happens, and y'all can purchase that property and split that however y'all need to do to purchase it. Say if it's 50 of y'all, say if it's 20 of y'all, Noble Dantes. Say if it's 30 of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just think of those things when the person said, well, 100,000. Okay, well now you're talking cash, and now you're talking about an entity that's doing things. You may have that house as a recovery center, as a group home. I'm just using these things as a reference, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Islam.
You know, a show, something for kids, a foster care. So what I'm saying is the power of what you can do when you understand these things that go with building a community, understanding who you are, the spiritual and the religious laws, and how you come together as a people to do what? Exactly what we just said. That's how you don't have to go in debt, per se. That's how you don't have to go in debt. Because you can sit down when you have that group of people, when you have that many individuals on the same frequency, you can be like, well, damn. And then in the community, Dante, is like where I'm from, the city of Flint. I show you what we can own. Man, we own a whole so-called church building that ain't operating no more. You know, in a year or two, we'll offer cash in 1 year and be like, we all stakeholders. And everybody be like, damn, is that easy? I'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, what y'all thought? This is what we offer cash. We rocking and rolling, and you know, and buying property. Well, yeah, we got to get out of here, man. I love y'all. Thank y'all. We got to do this again, man. We definitely got to do this again, man.
Islam, Sheikh, Islam, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our God, and our salvation by night and by day. Through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Shalom Aleichem, Ayah Sha'ayah, Islam, Amen, peace, light, and illumination.
Peace, nobles.
Peace, 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 nobles. Our benediction.
Peace.
Peace. Our benediction reads as follows: May the benediction of Allah be upon thee and thine always, as thou should strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow thine acts of love upon thine brethren, and do the best to shun thine evil ones. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standard, that you might nourish the souls of men. Let truth be the shield in the manifest battle of falsehood. Know that Moors need not to pick the lock to the gates of paradise by means of petty or criminal theft. For behold, the key to salvation already rests within thine own hands. And yes, even though a portion of our nature is weakness, instability, and inconsistency, there is still the greater part of our nature that is divine. May Allah protect thee, guide thee, preserve thee, lengthen thy age, and give thee everlasting peace. Islam, amen. Peace, 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 peace.
Peace.
I'm a spirit speaking